Greetings and salutations all, my name is Esus Spectrum and I'd like to welcome you to the Linux Gaming Review. Gaming on Linux is becoming more popular than ever, and as a result we are seeing more and more games being ported over to Linux, or being designed with Linux in mind from the very beginning. And while we all wait on bated breath for the full release of Steam's recently announced Proton, which should open up the floodgates as far as Linux gaming is concerned, I thought I'd shine a light on some of the games already available to the Linux community. Today the game I'd like to take a quick look at is called Air: Memories of Old. Developed by Forgotten Key and published by Daedalic Entertainment, Air is a passive exploration game with an interesting twist. Rather than simply walking around the world to explore, Air: Memories of Old allows you to take flight as you seamlessly transform from a priestess to a large eagle. Now before we get too far in, I want to say that there does appear to be a rather common bug when it comes to playing Air on Linux, and I thought I'd offer up the solution here rather than wait until the end. The game seems to have a difficult time launching, but has a rather simple solution on Steam. Going into the launch options and adding -screen -fullscreen 0 seems to correct this issue. And while the game will initially launch in windowed mode, it quickly resizes itself to full screen. For convenience, I will also provide the fix down in the description box below, so you can just copy and paste it. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the game itself. Air: Memories of Old is one of the shorter games I've played in this genre, taking me approximately 2.5 hours of time to complete the main storyline. That being said, I did not complete all the available Steam achievements and did not go hunting for all the various lore caches littered about the world. As you start off, you are introduced to the only other humans you will ever meet in the game, in a small outpost among the floating islands that make up the landscape. You are able to return to them to gain hints and guidance on where to search for the next temple or the key to open it, but I never found that necessary, as the world itself was not terribly large and included a discovery system that announced whenever you had reached a place of importance, which made it rather self-evident what directions you should be heading in. The game also provided additional guidance in the form of a two-tailed fox spirit who would show up after each key was discovered to give you general directions to the temple it would open. The game itself was very relaxing, and the low-poly art style and incredibly laid-back and minimalistic music lent itself to a game that was very easy to unwind in, which actually seemed to be in stark contrast to the game's overarching story of the impending doom of the world at the hands of the Void. I personally never felt a sense of urgency in my quest to prevent this destruction, and in fact some of the most compelling moments of the game for me came from meandering through the open world, finding unique and exciting ways to utilize my ability to transition between my human and bird state. In fact, I think this game would have been exponentially better if I were challenged more to make use of my aerial form in more dynamic ways rather than it just being a means to travel the shattered floating landscape. As I had mentioned previously, the main idea of this game is to investigate and stop the impending destruction of your world, which you do by traveling about and finding the 3 keys to 3 temples of different spirits of the world. While there are some puzzle elements to the game, it often felt very straightforward, and I frequently found myself wishing for more of a challenge from the temples, and especially the key sanctuaries, which essentially played like linear platformers. That being said, the world is littered with various caches of lore for you to find, and provides an interesting mechanic that allows you to view glimpses of the past, which really encourages you to take your time and fully explore and experience the world around you. If you are a completionist, you may actually be able to wring a couple more hours out of the game by hunting down these pockets of lore, though I felt I was able to discover a vast majority of them simply by following the progression of the story. And while I won't go into specifics on how the game culminates, I will say that like many other games in this genre, even after you have completed the main story, you are able to continue to explore the world, so there is no need to worry about grabbing all the lore before you reach the end of your journey. As for general gameplay, I spent the vast majority of my time playing with a mouse and keyboard and found the controls to be very twitchy, with it often taking several attempts to walk up to interactable areas. and while the controller gave me far more fine control over my movements, I would have liked to have been able to have some way to turn down the sensitivity of my mouse. I have to say that I found Air Memories of Old to be one of my favorite uses of the low poly graphics. Combined with their ambient background, they really managed to create a world that was both minimalistic and yet engaging. Where other games often feel like they have chosen the low poly art style for their ease of implementation or how readily those assets are available, Air really makes the art style come alive, and it truly complements the world they have created. Now, for what I honestly feel to be the greatest downfall of this game. The price. Air comes in at $18.99 on GOG, $17.99 with a soundtrack available for additional download of $3.99 on Steam, or $14.99 with the soundtrack DLC for $2.99 on Humble Bundle, and those prices are Canadian. As a quick aside, I have to say, if you are looking for a great source of well-priced games for Linux, don't forget about Humble Bundle. I have yet to be disappointed with a single one of their monthly bundles, and even if you aren't able to personally make use of the Windows-only games, for $12 a month, it never hurts to have a backlog of games to hand out to friends and family on special occasions, or just because you are a magnanimous individual. And now, back once more to the game. Personally, I believe Air Memories of Old is honestly an enjoyable game, but at those prices, it just feels absolutely overpriced. I highly recommend that if this is the kind of game you could see yourself enjoying, grab it on sale. Overall, while I really want to be able to recommend this game, its short amount of gameplay coupled with a price that just seems out of touch with what it's offering, I find it hard to do so. The game is far from terrible, but unless you're able to grab it for a significant discount, I have to say you are probably better off taking a pass on Air Memories of Old. Thank you very much for joining me for the Linux Game Review's look at Air Memories of Old. If there are any games that you'd like me to take a look at, please let me know in the comments below. That being said, I'm Esus Spectrum. I hope you have yourselves a great day, evening, or night, depending on where you are in the world, and I will see you all next time.